I was driving along the dusty country road around noon, the sun high enough to make the dry grass glow like gold. I slowed down when I saw something large moving at the edge of the field. At first, I thought it was a cow that had strayed from a nearby farm, but then it turned its head. My heart skipped a beat. A bear. A black bear, and not a small one. He didn't seem aggressive. He stood right on the dirt road, his fur thick and glossy, his eyes fixed on me with a strange calmness. I stopped the car, my hand hovering near the door handle. The bear took a few careful steps forward, sniffed the air, and then, what shocked me most, he came straight to my car and rested his muzzle against the door. For a few seconds, we just stared at each other through the glass. He didn't growl, didn't bare his teeth. It felt like he was asking for something. I slowly rolled the window down halfway. "Hey, buddy, you okay?" I said softly, trying to keep my voice calm. His eyes met mine. They weren't wild. There was something tired, almost pleading in them. He sniffed, then gave a soft huff. My phone was on the passenger seat. I grabbed it and started recording, my hands shaking just a little. The camera caught the bear's face close up, his breath fogging the glass. Within minutes, I called Alex Carter, the local ranger I sometimes helped with wildlife photos. "Alex, you need to come here now. There's a bear on Mill Road, but he's different. Calm. I think he's tame or something." Alex didn't believe me at first, but when he heard the tone in my voice, he promised to be there soon. I stepped out of the car carefully, keeping my distance. The bear didn't move. He looked at me, lowered his head, and made a quiet rumble that didn't sound threatening. I took a few steps back toward the field, and surprisingly, he followed, but not too close. His gait was slow, heavy, almost weary. Up close, I noticed odd things. His claws looked shorter than they should be, not broken, but trimmed. Around his neck, under the thick fur, there was a faint mark, a lighter ring where a collar must have been. My mind started racing. Had he escaped from somewhere? Was he a pet? A zoo animal? I spoke quietly, more to myself than to him. "You've seen people before, haven't you? You're not afraid of me." He blinked slowly, and for a second, I almost forgot he was a wild animal. When Alex finally arrived in his truck, I could tell by the look on his face that he didn't expect this. The bear stood beside me on the roadside like a massive dog, his nose twitching toward the smell of the ranger's vehicle. "Jesus, Dan, he's huge," Alex muttered, grabbing his tranquilizer gun but not pointing it. "Why isn't he attacking?" I shook my head. "Because he's not wild. Look at his neck." Alex frowned and took a few cautious steps forward. The bear didn't react. Alex lowered the gun and crouched slightly to get a better look. "You might be right," he said. "See those markings? Someone's kept him leashed. And his claws, too short for digging or climbing. He's been in captivity." Before we could say more, a voice echoed from down the road. It was old Mr. Harris from the nearby farm, standing by his fence, yelling, "You two out of your minds? That thing's dangerous. Call the sheriff. We can't have a bear walking around here. He's going to tear someone apart." Alex turned his head, trying to calm him down, but the farmer kept shouting. The bear lifted his head, ears perked, clearly uneasy at the noise. I raised my hand slowly, speaking to him again. "It's okay, big guy. You're fine. Just stay with me." He looked at me for a second and relaxed, his breathing steady again. Alex sighed. "We can't keep him here long, Dan. The department's gonna lose it if they find out we didn't report this immediately." "I know," I said. "But look at him. He's exhausted. He needs help, not a bullet." The ranger rubbed his forehead. "All right. I'll give you an hour. 1 hour to figure out who might have owned this bear or where he came from. After that, I have to make the call." "Fair." I nodded, already scrolling through my contacts for anyone with access to wildlife registries or veterinarians nearby. The bear sat down on the dirt, just beside my car, breathing heavily but calmly, like he finally felt safe. The fields around us were silent, only the wind in the grass and the low hum of Alex's truck. I knew that 1 hour might be all the time we had to save him. The hour Alex gave me was almost gone when Dr. Karen Miller's old white SUV finally appeared on the road. I waved her down, relieved. She stepped out, pulling her hair into a ponytail and glancing immediately at the bear sitting calmly beside my car. Her eyes widened. "You weren't kidding," she said quietly. "He's just sitting there. He's been like this the whole time," I told her. "Doesn't growl, doesn't try to run, just watches us." Karen opened her bag and pulled out a small handheld scanner. "All right, let's see if he's chipped. Keep him calm, Daniel." I nodded, though my heart was hammering again. She approached slowly, one step at a time, speaking in a soft, steady voice. Hey, big guy. It's okay. I just need to take a quick look. The bear tilted his head toward her, sniffing the air. His nose twitched, but he didn't move. Karen got within arm's reach, lowered the scanner to his shoulder, and pressed the button. The device beeped twice. Got it. She squinted at the small screen. Code number 9834, FP7. Registered. She turned to me. That means someone owned him. We can find out who. Alex walked closer, still holding the tranquilizer gun low, but not ready to fire. Karen read the rest of the data from the scanner. Pine Hollow Family Park. Ever heard of it? She asked. I frowned. Yeah, I remember that place. Closed down a few years ago, right? They had all kinds of animals. Goats, foxes, even a couple of bears. She nodded slowly. If this guy came from there, that means he's been in captivity for years. His name. She scrolled through the entry. Cole. Male. Estimated age, 5 years. Cole. I said it out loud, and the bear's ears twitched slightly, like he recognized it. Karen's eyes widened. Did you see that? He reacted to his name. He's definitely tame. Before we could say more, Alex's radio crackled. Dispatch wanted an update. He stepped away to answer, speaking in short, tense phrases. When he came back, his face was tight. I just talked to wildlife management. If he's a habituated bear, one that's been around people too long, they won't allow relocation into the wild. I stared at him. What do you mean, won't allow? He sighed. It's policy. They say those bears are too unpredictable. Either a certified sanctuary takes him, or, I knew. The word hung in the air like a storm cloud. Euthanasia. No one wanted to say it. Karen looked between us. There has to be another option. He's not aggressive. He just needs somewhere safe. Alex rubbed his forehead. Look, I'll hold off on reporting his exact condition until we know more. But we're on borrowed time. Karen crouched beside the bear again, running her hand a few inches above his fur, not touching but close. You poor thing, she murmured. Someone took care of you once. His teeth are clean, his coat's shiny. He's been fed properly. Someone didn't just dump him. Maybe the park closed, and he wandered out. She pulled out her phone, snapping a few photos and forwarding them to a contact. I'll check if the park still has any listed caretakers. The bear gave a quiet groan, stretched, and lowered himself onto the ground. He looked peaceful now, eyes half closed, breathing steady. For a second, everything went still, the wind, the noise, even the birds. I crouched down beside him, careful not to get too close. You remember people, don't you, Cole? I whispered. You're not supposed to be out here, huh? Karen's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and frowned. Well, this is interesting. The park's registry still has an active email tied to one of their former animal handlers, a woman named Emma Brooks. She was listed as Cole's primary caretaker. I can try reaching out, but who knows if it's still valid. Do it, I said. If anyone knows where he came from or how he got here, it's her. Alex checked his watch. All right, you've got a head start, but we can't stall much longer. Once the state gets involved, this is out of my hands. I nodded, already thinking ahead. Karen typed quickly, sending an email with photos and the chip ID. I'll also check through the veterinary registry, she said. Sometimes these parks chip their animals through private clinics. Cole lifted his head, glancing between us, and gave a quiet, rumbling sound, almost like a sigh. The look in his eyes wasn't wild. It was human, weary, and waiting. I knew that whatever happened next, this wasn't just about saving a bear. It was about undoing someone else's mistake. Alex's phone rang again. He walked off to take it, pacing by his truck. Karen turned to me. If she answers, we might finally have something solid. I hope she does, I said, because if she doesn't, we're running out of time. The wind picked up again, brushing through the dry grass. Cole blinked slowly, then looked down the road as if expecting someone familiar to appear. For a moment, I had the strange feeling he still believed that person would come back for him. The next morning, the air was colder, and a thin mist lay over the fields as we loaded into Alex's truck. Cole was still calm, resting behind a temporary metal barrier near my garage. He had eaten some apples and drank water during the night, but his eyes looked distant, as if waiting for something that never came. Karen had barely slept. She spent half the night checking old databases and messaging animal welfare contacts. By sunrise, she had a lead. Pine Hollow Family Park was only 2 hours away. We drove with the windows half open, the scent of hay and gasoline mixing in the air. Alex stayed silent most of the trip, focused on the road. You know they'll be watching this, he finally said. Social media's already full of posts about a bear walking around town. People are scared. I glanced at my phone. Notifications kept piling up. Locals sharing rumors. Dangerous predator near Mill Road. Bear trained to attack. Even escaped circus animal. None of it true, but panic spreads fast. When we reached Pine Hollow, the place looked abandoned for years. The faded sign still hung over the gate, letters peeling. Welcome to Pine Hollow Family Park. Weeds had grown through the cracks in the asphalt, and one of the wooden fences had collapsed. The air smelled of damp wood and rust. A few old animal enclosures stood empty, their paint flaking, gates hanging loose. No movement, no sounds, just silence and crows circling above. Karen got out first, scanning the area. She looked uneasy. Hard to believe this was once a family park. Alex checked the perimeter, his boots crunching on broken glass. We weren't supposed to be here, technically, but the place was deserted. I took out my camera, documenting what was left. Maybe if we found any records, we could trace how Cole ended up on that road. A door creaked open from the main building. A woman stepped out, wearing a faded jacket and work gloves. She froze when she saw us. You're not supposed to be here, she said sharply, but her voice softened when Karen mentioned the bear. Are you Emma Brooks? I asked. The woman hesitated, then nodded. I used to work here. Why? Karen showed her a photo of Cole we'd taken the day before. Emma's hand went to her mouth. Oh my God, that's him. That's Cole. She walked closer to the screen, her eyes wet. I thought he was gone. We tried so hard to find homes for all of them when the park shut down. The owners disappeared, and everything fell apart overnight. We had 5 bears. Got taken by small sanctuaries. But Cole, no one wanted him. Too friendly, they said. Too used to people. One of the groundskeepers felt bad and, well, he let him out. Said it was better than watching him get put down. She turned away, wiping her eyes. I begged him not to, but it was too late. Alex sighed. So he's been wandering around ever since. Emma nodded. He was just a cub when we got him. Hand raised. I used to feed him with a bottle. He'd follow me everywhere. She paused, her voice breaking. I never thought he'd survive this long. When she spoke his name, her tone carried both love and guilt. Karen took notes, her expression serious. Emma, do you have any documents left? Records, permits, anything that shows his origin? Emma nodded toward the old office. Maybe. Some files might still be there. We followed her inside. Dust covered everything. Papers, cages, old posters. She pulled open a filing cabinet and found a folder labeled Bears 2018. Inside were vaccination records, feeding schedules, and a photo of young Cole with a small scar on his left shoulder blade. The same one I had noticed yesterday. That's him, Karen said quietly. No doubt. We'll use this for identification. Emma exhaled slowly. Please tell me you're not going to put him down. I looked at Alex. Not if we can help it. My phone buzzed again, another alert. Local news stations had picked up the story. The headlines were worse now. Tame bear roaming free near residential area. The comments were brutal. Some demanded that wildlife officials take action immediately. Alex's phone rang soon after. He stepped outside to answer. When he came back, his face was grim. That was the state representative. They want a decision by tomorrow. Sanctuary or euthanasia. Emma's voice trembled. Sanctuary. Is there one willing to take him? Karen shook her head. Not yet. Most are full. But one in Oregon might have an opening. If we can prove he's manageable and safe to transport. Alex crossed his arms. Then we need proof. Fast. We left Pine Hollow with copies of the documents and Emma's promise to help however she could. Before we drove off, she placed her hand on the truck's door. Tell him I'm sorry. I'll come see him if you let me. I nodded. He still remembers you, I said quietly. I think he's been waiting for you. The drive back felt longer. The sun was high now, and the air had warmed, but the weight in the truck was heavy. Every mile meant less time to save him. Back at my place, Cole lifted his head when he saw us. He stood up slowly and sniffed the air, as if sensing something had changed. Maybe he smelled Emma's scent on my jacket. His eyes softened for a moment, and I realized he wasn't just surviving. He was hoping. By noon the next day, everything was ready, or as ready as it could be. The sun hung high over the fields, the wind dry and sharp. Cole sat near the garage, his fur glinting under the light. We had spent the morning setting up the transport cage, a heavy steel crate with reinforced locks and straps. Karen was inside the truck sorting through medical supplies, while Alex paced, double-checking the state paperwork on his clipboard. Every step felt like it mattered. Emma arrived just before lunch. She carried an old flannel blanket in her arms. It was worn and faded, but she held it like something precious. "I found this in storage," she said quietly. "It used to be in his den back at the park. Maybe he'll recognize the smell." She walked over to Cole and held the blanket out. The bear sniffed it, his nose twitching, and then made a deep, low sound, a mix of a sigh and a hum. He nudged the fabric with his muzzle, then looked up at Emma. His eyes softened instantly. That was the first time I saw him show real emotion. Karen nodded approvingly. "Good sign. Familiar scent lowers stress." She drew up a syringe with a mild sedative, just enough to calm him for the drive. "I hate doing this," she murmured, "but protocol's protocol." Alex stood by with gloves and cables, ready to help secure the cage. "Let's do this smooth and steady," he said. "The fewer surprises, the better." We positioned the cage near the truck ramp. I stayed in front of Cole, talking to him in a calm voice. "Hey, big guy, you're going on a little trip, all right? Somewhere safe." He tilted his head, watching me carefully. Karen approached, her movements slow, almost rehearsed. She touched his shoulder lightly and administered the shot. Cole barely flinched. Within minutes, his breathing slowed, but his eyes stayed open, aware. Emma crouched nearby. "Cole, it's okay, baby," she whispered. "Remember me? It's Emma. Time to go home." At the sound of her voice, he stirred, then stood up slowly, legs steady but relaxed. I stepped back, giving him space. The gate to the cage stood open. To everyone's surprise, Cole walked straight toward it, sniffed the blanket inside, and then climbed in on his own. The sound of his claws scraping against the metal floor was heavy but calm. Emma's eyes filled with tears. "He trusts us," she said. Alex moved quickly to secure the gate, sliding the heavy latch into place. But when he tried to lock it, the mechanism jammed. "Damn it," he muttered, tugging at the handle. It stuck halfway. Karen frowned. "We can't leave it like that. If it pops open mid-drive." Alex grabbed a wrench from his belt, trying to force it down. The bear shifted inside, bumping the wall of the cage. The metal groaned. "Easy, buddy," I said, raising my voice a little. "You're fine. We're just locking up." He quieted again. After a few tense seconds, Alex managed to push the latch down and secure it. He exhaled. "Let's hope it holds." I took out my phone and started recording video. Karen nodded. "Smart move. We'll need proof of his behavior for the sanctuary staff." Emma stroked the bars gently. "He'll be okay, right?" she asked. Karen gave a small smile. "If he stays this calm, yes." We lifted the cage with a small forklift and secured it to the trailer using 4 thick straps. Cole shifted once inside, then lay down, his head resting on the blanket. For a moment, the air around us was completely still. It felt like everyone was holding their breath. The drive started smoothly. I followed in my car behind the trailer while Alex and Karen rode ahead in the truck. We passed the first set of farms without issue, until a red pickup suddenly pulled out across the road, blocking our path. A tall man stepped out, Mr. Harris, the same farmer from the first day. "You're not taking that thing through here," he shouted. "What if he gets loose? You'll have blood on your hands." Alex climbed down from the truck. "Mr. Harris, stand down." The animal's sedated and secured. "He's not a threat." The farmer shook his head. "You don't get it. People around here are scared. My kids walk this road." I stepped out of my car, camera still rolling. "Sir, look, we have it all under control. He's calm. He's not dangerous. Watch." I pointed the camera toward the cage. Cole lifted his head slightly, blinking slowly, then lay back down. No roaring, no movement. Just quiet. Alex took a deep breath. "I'll send this footage to the wildlife office as proof," he said. The farmer hesitated, then stepped aside, muttering under his breath. "You're all crazy. One day that thing'll turn on someone." We drove past him, the tension lingering in the air. By the time we reached the state border, the sun was dipping lower, throwing long shadows across the road. A checkpoint officer stopped us, checked our papers, and frowned. "I'm going to need the vaccination record signed by a licensed vet," he said. Karen handed him the documents. "It's all there." He shook his head. "This signature's from the old park. We need a current medical certification. Without it, you can't cross state lines with a live bear." Alex's jaw clenched. How long do we have? The officer looked at his watch. 2 hours before shift change. After that, the permit's void for the day. Karen's face paled. My clinic's an hour and a half away. We'll need to scan, print, and email the signed letter before then. Alex looked at me. Can you drive ahead and help her get it done? I nodded immediately. As I turned the car around, I glanced in the side mirror. Cole was still lying quietly in the cage, his eyes half open, the blanket beneath him moving gently with his breathing. We had 2 hours to save his life, and the clock had just started ticking. We made it to the sanctuary just before sunset. The drive had been tense, but Cole stayed calm the entire way. The staff at the gate were ready, already briefed by Karen through phone calls and emails. As we pulled into the gravel lot, 2 handlers in green uniforms approached with long poles, not for aggression, but in case they needed to guide him. The moment the truck stopped, the air felt different. It smelled of pine trees, wet soil, and safety. Karen climbed out first, showing the paperwork she had finally signed and scanned during the mad rush back at the clinic. The officer at the border had accepted the digital version just minutes before the deadline. Now, the sanctuary director, a tall woman named Linda, checked the documents again and nodded. You got here just in time, she said. Let's get him into quarantine. We opened the trailer carefully. Cole blinked at the fading sunlight, his breath visible in short puffs. He seemed alert, but not afraid. When Emma stepped closer and called his name softly, his ears perked up. He didn't try to bolt or growl, just looked around slowly, taking in the sounds of birds and distant animals. The handlers opened the gate and guided him toward a fenced quarantine pen, about 50 feet wide, lined with tall trees and a shaded shelter. He stepped inside on his own, sniffing the ground, then turned once in a slow circle before lying down on the straw. It was the calmest I'd ever seen him. Linda exhaled. That's rare. Most rescues pace for hours. He seems relieved. Karen leaned against the fence. He probably senses it's the first place no one's yelling or pointing guns at him. Emma's voice was barely above a whisper. He's home. They left him to rest for the night under observation. The rules were strict. No direct contact for 7 days, just quiet monitoring and limited feeding while he adapted. We said our goodbyes reluctantly, though I stayed longer than the others, just watching him from a few yards away. Cole raised his head once more, his eyes meeting mine through the fence. There was no fear, only recognition, and something like peace. A week later, I came back under a clear midday sky. The sanctuary had a different energy in daylight. Birds calling, volunteers walking dogs, the smell of fresh hay everywhere. Linda met me near the gate. You'll like what you see, she said with a smile. He's doing better. Cole was in a larger pen now, one that overlooked a small wooded hillside. His fur looked cleaner, glossier. He was lounging under the shade, chewing lazily on a log. When I called his name, he stood up and walked toward the fence. He didn't press against it or reach through like before, just leaned close, sniffing, his nose twitching near my hand, but never trying to touch. It felt like progress. Karen, who had come along again, nodded. That's good behavior. He's relearning boundaries. Emma smiled faintly. He's remembering what being a bear feels like. We sat on a nearby bench while Linda brought out the final paperwork. The investigation into his background was complete. The truth hit harder than I expected. Cole hadn't been born in Pine Hollow. He came from an unlicensed breeder who sold exotic cubs under the table. When Pine Hollow bought him, he was only 3 months old. The park used him for photos with children. Tourists could pet him, hug him, feed him. The short leash around his neck left the mark we had seen. When inspectors finally shut the park down, the owners vanished overnight, leaving staff like Emma to clean up the mess. Emma looked down, twisting her hands together. We thought freeing him was the only mercy we had left. Nobody wanted him, and the sanctuaries were full. I never forgave myself for that. Karen placed a hand on her shoulder. You did what you could. He's alive because of that choice. I looked at Cole again. He was pacing slowly along the edge of the fence now, not anxiously but with purpose, his head held higher. The forest beyond the sanctuary stretched for miles, a protected area he'd eventually have access to once he passed full rehabilitation. For the first time, I realized he had a real chance at a life not built by humans. Later that afternoon, Linda invited me to record a short message for the sanctuary's outreach video. We set up near Cole's enclosure, with sunlight filtering through the branches behind me. I hesitated before speaking, then looked straight at the camera. This bear isn't a monster. He's a mistake we made, and a reminder of what happens when we try to tame what was never meant to be owned. He trusted people because we made him believe he should. And now, it's on us to give him the safety he never had. My voice caught for a moment, but I didn't stop. If you see a wild animal that seems too gentle, too trusting, don't feed it. Don't touch it. Call someone trained. Compassion doesn't mean contact. It means understanding what's best for them, even when it hurts us. Cole's story isn't about danger. It's about responsibility. When we finished, I turned back toward the pen. Cole had moved closer again, watching quietly. For a second, the sunlight caught in his eyes, reflecting amber and gold. He gave a deep, low huff, the same sound he'd made the day I first met him, and then walked away toward the trees, disappearing behind the shade. I stood there, listening to the quiet hum of the wind through the leaves, and it struck me how simple the answer really was. Where did he come from? From us. And maybe, if we learned from it, that's also where his second chance began.